like it. Hello, everybody. Eastern here. And before I start this podcast or live stream today, this live stream deals with more serious topics and issues. So if you're not generally interested in this type of stuff, or you're not very comfortable with listening to serious topics, I advise that you would leave now and go watch something else. And now, with that out of the way, let's begin today's live stream or whatever you want to call it. Today, I'm joined by my guest and one of the main topics here, Lamar. You can introduce yourself if you want.
Hello, everyone.
So, now
Yeah.
this deals with a lot more serious stuff, like I said, and so basically, if you couldn't tell by the title, then this deals more or less with Carson. If you don't know who he is, he's a basically a music user and very popular in the fandom. He also does train simulator series, not series, but like videos, and yeah, he made the Little Blue Hell series. So if you mainly know him by that, but this mainly deals with that, and so, anyways, now, so Lamar, where did this all begin, so that we could get this going, so then we could you know, get on the topic.
Well, this beginning happened back last year in February, exactly on the 17th of February 2017. As I woke up in the morning, well, I went to Discord and went to see what was going on with some of my friends. And since I wanted to speak to Carson because I knew that he had Discord, I wanted to meet him and, to see how he actually was and if he was, a really nice person as they say he was. So it started off with me saying hello, and then he said yo, and then I asked him about him having any middies, and he said yes, but he said he'd rather not send them out. So then asked him if he wanted to call. I mean, I discarded anything about the middies, and so him and his friend Duncan, me, all three of us were in a call together. And then I started talking to him about my YouTube channel. At that time, I had a little bit of subs, but I was at least trying, which was Mr. Starshunter at the time. But I then did an Off the Rails remake, and when I was doing it, I was the same day I was supposed to release it. But when I was exactly doing it, some of the files weren't in the exact video, and well, kind of think of it when I checked about it, nothing was, all of it wasn't actually full. Let's just say that. But when I went to showing Carson and Duncan about it, they said that it was sort of clickbaiting because they thought I was tricking my audience into thinking that this was an actual remake when it wasn't. And I tried to explain to him about it, and it wasn't clickbait at all. I just told him that some of the files, which included some of the footage of me doing my Wooden Railway remake of Off the Rails, weren't in there when I exported it, which was some kind of glitch. And overall, I told him about, after that, I told him, I mean, you can check out my channel and stuff that I do on there. And I mean, I was giving him like a chance, you know, to check out my channel
Yeah,
and how exactly it was. So
yeah,
afterwards, he said no. I mean, and I asked him why, but he said because I don't want to. I said like that's fine if you don't want to. And I was being a bit sarcastic at this point. I was acting like or saying something. Something is fishy here. And then he said no, it's not. And then it turns out that I missed a call from him. And since I started talking to him about who I was and who I'm familiar with, because at the time he didn't know who I was, and since I told him I was, the race black, and I mean, everything from there started to go downhill. So at that point, there started to be him calling me the N word or niggers, and I was shocked because I wouldn't expect him from such. And I
Wait,
thought
he
that,
said that?
yeah. So basically,
Sorry for interrupting.
the black joke started to come a bit more worse and worse, and honestly, I couldn't take it from there. So then afterwards, I left the call, and then it ended up him spamming me about call me Lamar, call me Lamar, call me Lamar, and well, let's just say it wasn't the end there. So afterwards, we had another call because he started calling me about, you know, the N word, whatever the hell. But he didn't stop there. Apart from there, he and his friends started taking it out of hand because I was so angry at him for what he was like doing. Because I told him I don't accept those kind of things, but obviously he and Duncan wouldn't understand. Like, I mean, I could take jokes in a while, but what he was doing wasn't even a joke to him. To me, it was a more serious on note. And I mean, people would say that they take things too seriously, but what Carson did was out of the line. So, heading on, they started talking about how context doesn't matter and saying that racism doesn't matter, and then saying stuff like, oh, if it wasn't towards you, then that doesn't make a difference. But it does. You shouldn't say the word overall. I mean, I could understand if you're using the second term in other words, but he used the first term, which was, you know,
The
end on.
racist part.
So, so that was it from there, and I took a break from him until July. So I guess this would be the middle part. So since I wanted to, well, I mean, for the way I've been acting, I felt bad, and I don't think it was needed. So I put him a message saying, sorry, mate, and said, hi, Carson. He said, hi. I said, are you available? And he said, maybe. So then afterwards, I called about, the discussion thing. And then he says, ask me if I'm talking. And then I talked to him, that's why I'm asking you if you have Hangouts, because if when you're on Hangouts, it would be more easier and I can hear his voice. But at the time on Discord, when I was on my old computer, everything was a bit, glitchy and a bit slow for me. So then I asked him about if he had a Jupiter 6 sound font. Now, I understand the concept for people who don't like to give out their instruments, and I mean, the Jupiter 6 sound font doesn't exist, but, the Thomas and Friends Season 1 sound bank does, with this, the samples and stuff, but I don't really use that. And I then asked him a question like, where are you, Carson? Are you there? And I called him. I said, and then he said, please stop. And I was calling you, but you didn't respond to me. So I thought that you were gone somewhere until you got back. So I went and wait in the call for him. Then afterwards, I asked him, Carson, do you have a Jupiter 6 sound one? He said no. And then I asked him, about the salty MIDI and whatnot. And then he said yes. And I asked him, please, if I can use that because I might use it for MIDI recreation. And then he said, because. I said, well, go ahead. Are we cool or something? That was what I was asking, but he said, not really. I said, look, I'm sorry about what happened. Because I wanted to show him that I wasn't really going to just, be that type of guy who wouldn't apologize and wouldn't be ashamed for the way they act. And then he started saying that even if you apologize, I won't be giving you MIDI, sound fonts, VSTIs, or anything. And then then this is where it goes bad. I told them, I mean, sure, you can make a lot of jokes, but some of those what you did went a tad bit too far. And then it ended up going, him responding to me saying, excuse me. And then I wanted to start the call, but then it ended up him and Duncan, the same two, in the call. And then Duncan now. Well, this is where everything goes downhill, right? So eventually, he and Duncan started arguing at me for some reason, saying that, oh, how even though we're not friends, you did this and whatnot, and like you can't even take a joke as the N word. And that time I was really shocked because I mean it's understandable that people don't take a lot of stuff, you know, exactly what you would take on your level. But this is where it goes downhill. So Duncan started shouting at me and saying that do you understand or whatnot and this and that. But then eventually this is where it drew the line. So then they started saying that they're going to steal my information at that time. And how they went on my Facebook, my old Facebook accounts, and then trying to steal my image and even stealing my info with others. While there, Carson was laughing and then telling him to continue and afterwards, thinking that it was all funny and all and that it was all jokes, but it really wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it really made me feel uncomfortable. I didn't know exactly what to do at that point. And then afterwards, I left the call.
Yeah.
Afterwards, the next day, this is what happened the next day. So I guess this would be continuing on to the middle part. Anyway, skipping those where I showed him stuff about the music and whatnot. So I kept messaging and telling him about hi and whatnot. And what's up, are you okay and all. Because I was trying to be nice to him and trying to make him seem like I was a
Recommend.
good fit. So then afterwards, um, you know, so whatnot. Anyway, we afterwards, me and Carson, we tried to be friends and whatnot. Or I guess sort of, let's not say friends, but let's say we tried to be on good terms.
Acquaintances.
Yeah. So then he started talking about, I did this and whatnot. And then I asked him about some VSTIs, which are free because he said, I mean, normal person would send it, but then he was just like, I don't feel like it and whatnot. But that's not the point. Afterwards,
Um, do you need time to track your words or
yeah. But
right?
anyway, getting on to the, I guess, second part now. Here's one. So, around the times I would ask Carson for help with some of my instruments because I would want to make my music good and make it sound better than it already was. But sometimes I would ask him about, VSTIs for pianos or anything that would sound season one that I could use to even develop my music and make it sound better and actually accurate to the TV series from season one and two. So, one time I asked him for a season one piano, like where can I find one or a free VSTI? Then instead of him helping me, he started sending me to these random exact links, which was VSTI stuff, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted. And then he started saying stuff like trying to twist me up, saying, say for example, I asked him a piano like in Percy's theme, like what I use. He's saying the pipe organ, and trying to put my head around. And then I asked him about one for Thomas and the Trucks. And then he started saying stuff like, "Are you just gonna revoice Ty's midis?" And at that time, I started to I was actually developing on making, what should I say?
Like developing and making music from scratch.
Yeah, I started making my own music from scratch, and I wanted to test out the piano and see what I can do. So then he started saying stuff about me, you know, revoicing his midis and stuff.
And for those who don't know what revoice mean, is basically re-instrumentize, like use someone else's music and put different instruments or edit the pitch or that type of stuff on music.
Yeah. So getting on. So then one time I told him about, he started to change, and he wasn't really like how he was before, because back then he was a bit more ambitious. But not just that, his character started to develop more and more terrible. But then he started talking. I asked him about what's up. Like if I said like what's up, how are you, and whatnot, then he would just say stuff like "leave me alone" and "bugger off. I don't like you, and I don't want to talk to you," or something like that. Continue on. I then asked him where I can get lint samples, or I asked him, "Do you have lint samples?" And then he wasn't exactly helpful. Like I asked him where I can get some good lint samples, and then he started talking about, well, being sarcastic. And then I asked him about like being serious. I was asking about the Scarlet theme with, the Cabasa, and then he said that's my mouth. And then all of a sudden, like, he's then saying that, oh, he wasn't being sarcastic, and I can tell he was being sarcastic. And then, because when I actually really needed help by him, but then he was just like, I'm not your friend, so I don't have to help you. I mean, you don't have to be my friend to help someone. In other words, after that, let's just say he started saying stuff like this. So, this is a quote what he said. No, it's just I'm not your friend or acquaintance or chum or buddy. There is no established connection here. All you do is beg for instruments. When at that time I wasn't really begging for any instruments. I was just asking where I can find some good ones, because I wanted to make my own music better. And then he's saying I just used him to get in sound libraries. And afterwards, this is where most of the stuff tends to go very downhill. So I heard some stuff about Carson well sending pictures of our chat to most people. And I don't really appreciate what he was doing, because I didn't really like how people call out my name and I haven't done anything to them. So then when I was commenting on someone's free and easy, he then said, I can't remember the exact comment, but he was talking about how I didn't congratulate that person on making that piece. And I did say ye in, like, I guess it would be my own way of saying that's good, or saying that's exciting or whatnot. But then I asked him, I asked the person if he can send a MIDI, because I wanted to learn the notes, and then he's Carson and learn it yourself. And I was like, fair enough. But then I showed him a piece of Arthur's season 1 remix I was working on, which was something I made from scratch. And since I was constructing it, there wasn't really a lot of instruments. I mean, this would be starting off as a little demo, or what what would I say? Something that's not really constructed yet. So basically, it's a work in progress.
Unfinished music.
Yeah. So I asked him, what are your thoughts about it? And then he started saying there isn't anything to like. And I was talking about my music, because I wanted to ask him like how does it sound? And then he's saying, why do you care about, everything? He just think it was a joke, and then started being real mean and saying like, oh, it's really bare bones and whatnot. But I mean, it's called a work in progress for a reason. That's why it's such bare bones. And then he's saying that, oh, I have his percussion and one string track. And then he started saying that, why am I getting so mad and whatnot? And I wasn't. And at the time, this is where we're heading on to the endings. And then started saying, I don't like your music. I mean, he could have at least criticized me in the nicest way. Like saying that, I mean, it sounds good so far, but you should add on a lot of instruments, to make it sound more better than no. Anyway, continuing on, he's saying stuff like, I was taking it personally, and if you don't block me, if you calm down. And whatnot, saying that I was insulting him and saying that I'm showing this in the instrumentalist group if you don't stop. And it wasn't really me who would take this into this wrong way. It was mostly him, because I did ask him what was your thoughts about it, and he started saying that I was getting pissed and putting it into chats like this, and well, anyway, so afterwards, he started calling out my name, saying I was being such an asshole and calling my names out to people. Well, I already said that, but I then would get messages from others saying that, oh, you did this to Carson. And, he was spreading lies on me to make people think that I was a bad person, naturally. But this is where everything goes bad. So I then talked about it and I was like, why put me in that position? Like, why exactly would you spread lies on me and make other people think otherwise? And then it seemed like my character from a good guy started to go bad because of him and the lies that he told them. Some of those people don't exactly know me and they don't exactly know how I am. But because of what Carson was saying, people they didn't even think, they even know me at all. But yet they would start attacking me just because of what he told them, which is not true. And he started insulting me for whatnot. So, he said that I was being such an asshole and whatnot. But anyway, so moving on to the composition thing now. So, one night before the whole Ditty thing came down, I was added into the instrumentalist group by, I'm not going to say who. Anyway, I was invited to there and I wanted to check out and see others who would show examples of their work. So, Carson gave me a role, so not because I was one at the time, but it was to try and pee me off or piss me off in a way. So, he didn't believe that I did compositions. And when I wanted to... Alright. So when I wanted to show him that I did do a lot of, well, compositions that I've been working on for like the past few months or whatnot, he would, even if I gave him an example of like what I did, he would say, oh, you could just make that in seconds, or you can just make that in 5 minutes, or you can just make that in an hour. But he doesn't really know exactly how long it would take me to do something like this. So when I would make something, example, like a piece of music, and I was trying to recreate something, normally it would take me an hour, but well, like, what, it wouldn't really take me an hour. It would take me like any time or anything. Say for example, and I was working on a piece for 2 days now. It was still, I mean, it was small, but I was just trying to make the intro part, become a bit more accurate to how it actually sounded. And at the time, I was tired because I was doing a lot of stuff and whatnot. So we're coming on. So anyway, when I told him about it, he then said, "This is what I didn't understand when he said this." So I said, maybe think about giving me a composition role, or anyway, both role or something like that, like a both MIDI voice and both a compositioner or composer. So anyway, when I told him about it and I told him to look in the chat, um, he said that he was considering, but saying that I was being demanding and whatnot. You're not getting it, and what I didn't understand, because exactly that I didn't even say anything or even came at him in a mad way or angry way, because I was just telling him that I do compositions, so maybe, you know even think about like giving me a composer role. And then he said something like, I was considering about it, but you were being demanding about it, so I'm being a jerk, so then no. And that point I got confused because I didn't even know exactly what I did instead of proving him wrong. So then he started, told me to meet him and the instrumentalist voice chat. So when I got there, he started telling everyone how, I was being demanding for a role. It wasn't really true. And I started explaining to him about, people. If you don't know that people do compositions, it wasn't really nice to just give them a, like. I mean, I was happy for the role at the time, but I feel like some of my work he didn't really dig in or even bother to look at. So a day afterwards, I was working on a piece for James, like giving him a ditty or whatnot, because I was just playing around with some instruments. So afterwards, I basically put it in this chat afterwards. So I know I'm using the same word, but okay. So he then found out about that piece, and then saying that instead of criticizing me, he criticized me in like, instead of not in a nice way, but he gave me a bad way of saying it. So he started blurting out, they're wrong though. You could have said something like, I mean, it sounds good, but you need to improve on your chords a little more. He didn't even give me a nice tip or tip of, like, you know what I mean? Something like that. Anyway. It started going bad. And then I told him about, I mean, it's chords. What would you like me to do? And then talk about, I told him that I don't complain about the chords in your music, so I complain about mine, saying that they're so bad and whatnot. And then he told me, said, like, plus you couldn't have told me because I blocked you. And I said, what? Because I didn't exactly know what he meant. And then he asked me, are you an idiot? And I asked him, no, are you? And then afterwards, he said, you're getting banned. At that point, I was like, what the hell? I didn't even do anything. Like, why just blurt out you're getting, like, anything exactly to him? And then started passing insults that I'm an asshole and whatnot, and telling me F off and exactly stuff like that. So, heading on now. And then saying stuff like, I'm a sad this and sad what. And not just that. Instead of him, like, coming at me, everyone started attacking me just because of what he told them, which was a whole lie. And anyone else would just literally stand up to Carson like he's some kind of god or something, but he isn't. He ain't even perfect. So instead of everyone actually like thinking or whatnot, they just started attacking me like I did something. And then afterwards, what people didn't know about him is what he called me, well, nigger, and I started telling him about it. And everyone was asking me, oh, what I did about this Carson thing and what, or what did you do to him and what exactly, like. So afterwards, I told them about it and exactly what my point of view for it. And then little did I know that they were actually people who were friends with Carson, sending him information about me in their private chat. Started ending up with apparently I was the one talking about Carson behind his back. It would never have started if Carson, if he didn't talk stuff about me to other people, then I wouldn't have done it to him. But I wasn't intending to talk anything about behind his back. But anyway, I was just telling him about what happened, and then Carson then started getting mad for what, and then saying that, oh, you did this and you did what, and then saying that, oh, how he never chat anything about me behind his back, when it's the points were literally just proven, because I would get messages from other people saying that Carson told me, did you did this, is this true, or something like that. So heading on, it didn't really resolve that day, because afterwards like on that same night I was mad because I had a melt. I guess I had a meltdown afterwards after that because I couldn't take what the hell was going on. So a few days afterwards, because I didn't even bother speaking to him, this guy called whatever you would call him, or Sky, however you would refer him to. Hold on a moment. So afterwards,
Your microphone is muted if you're wondering.
anyway, anyway, so afterwards, a few days afterwards, when I tried to get the Carson thing out of my head, he started sending messages about how I'm a coward and whatnot, just because I left the chat and I didn't exactly have time to bother with him. So with the Junction Productions thing, he he then told me about how Carson exactly, about the stuff with Carson, and I was gonna talk to him off with James, like a James, what should I say, an actual basis thing. That's what I was talking to him about earlier on today. So then, afterwards, we started getting on about, certain topics about he didn't believe, he just thinks that James is that. And I was like, I expect your opinion. And then I asked him if he wanted to call because I was going to give him one of my instruments I was working on. And yes, I developed my instruments and whatnot. So afterwards, he then said that, no, I don't want to call you because I think you're a stranger. And that kind of hurt me in a bit because most people even know who I am. I know exactly like what I do. But that's not the point. He then said that how I didn't exactly get the, you know, nicest reputation, as so you would say. Then afterwards, it started going on to stuff with Carson, and I sided the story. And then a few hours afterwards, earlier on today, I get this stuff about Carson saying that he was gonna do such and such, but this was what drew the line, and I think it's still happening on today. Carson then told me about what Junction was sending to me, about what Junction was sending to him. So this is what happened afterwards today. He then saying that, oh, I'm a coward, and saying F you and whatnot. And then he told me to click this link. Now he said that he made a video and had already exposed me when I did a live stream about today. But he said that he was going to expose me, and I clicked the link by accident. And when I looked and came off, there was no video, and then it ended up saying Lamar in the URL. Afterwards, I didn't even know, but that link was an IP tracker, and that was tracking my IP. So then afterwards, I go and look on the video, but there was none, like I already said. And when I came off that link, I get a literally Carson sent me a screenshot of my IP. Well, he has it. And then afterwards, I thought that it was all gonna end. But later on in the chat, he started spreading my IP to everyone else in the chat. And at this point, I did not know what to do. Because anything can happen. And exactly you lot would know that hacking and even sending someone IP is legal, especially if it's in public. And I guess the situation is still going on now. But what do I have to say how I would end this? Well, for all you people out there, Carson, what should I say? Carson isn't the person who you think he is. Now, I don't want to bother going out arguing or shouting or whatnot, but he isn't the person who you lot respect or think he is. You might be thinking that leaking someone's IP, that's not your real IP, but it actually is. And say, for example, if he hacked me in my computer, that wouldn't be funny at all. I would lose everything. Who knows what I would lose? But anyway, that point, I thought that he took it way too far, and I did not know exactly what to do at that point. Like I already said, I don't know why I'm saying it again, but okay. I did not know exactly what to do because I was in a shock that he would actually do something like that. Because taking someone's IP and putting it into a public chat isn't exactly bright. And at that point, I thought he had gone too far. Because you wouldn't see anyone else, or even someone like that, even taking someone's IP. And at that point, I
You
did
could
not know what to do,
continue.
like I said. He then spreaded it out to people, and I don't know exactly who he's going to send it to next. So this, I guess, this would be what my IP was. Easton, could you show them?
Also, don't. Well, I would, but then I don't want anyone seeing your address and then like going and like
Yeah,
trying to do anything with it. So it might be for the best not to show it. But
yeah,
and the thing, when I do the video, I'll just censor any important information.
yeah. But anyways, that I guess I don't know when this is gonna end, but this is, I guess, is my story. But let me just show you guys proof of what's been going on. Because you guys might not believe me because I might not have any evidence or whatnot.
Hold on a second. But wait.
Okay.
So yeah, we could continue talking anyway. So.
Hold up.
We could continue talking while you're doing this thing.
So anyway, what my overall point of this? What should I say? Carson isn't really the person you think he is. He is a bad influence to you all. You guys might be thinking that I'm the bad person in all this, but judging by what's been going on, I don't really think that it would be the wise situation to trust him. If he did bother to show any change, then yes, I would accept him and actually try and get along with him. But since he didn't show any change, well, that's where I am today. So don't trust him or whatever the hell he does. Because he's just selfish, arrogant, and just
When they feel like this.
quite plainly insultive. So yes, and I'm just gonna show you a few pieces of evidence about what he's done and exactly what the conversation was. Just to clarify who you guys are calling your so-called role. Okay.
It'll be fine. I just need it for the video.
Okay.
So like so it's okay to type it.
I'll send you the images I can.
Also, what I mean by type down, I mean like really like while you're sending images, like type down like everything that happened from beginning to end, like with like the date and stuff, and like what happened on that specific day, all the way up to until now. That's what I mean by that too. Annoying.
Okay. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Right.
I.
I'm still here.
All right. Also, for example, I'm typing it in the chat. Hold on. That's what I mean. Like when you type it down, like you.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean by that.
Oh, I see you, man.
Also, I'm not sure if I'll release this live stream, since this is mainly just going over stuff. So then when we actually do, and when I do the video, it's going to be mainly just me doing my point of view of what happened. Like it's still going to be defending you, but I'm going to tell it from me and you's perspective. If that's all.
Yeah.
And make sure it's like from beginning all the way to currently by the time this by the time we do this, so it makes more sense.
Are we still live?
Yeah, but I can always just not release this or delete this when we do it. Yeah, as long as they're not. Also, by the way, just letting you know, um, they're doing a voice call in the chat in the chat.
Who is?
I can't say it through here, or else if we do release it, or else they'll know who I am.
Okay.
So, and don't forget to put everything else that happened. Alright, let me see how you record things. Okay. On the Windows version. Alright. Well, this is an updated version, so it's very different. Don't forget to put all the other dates and stuff.
Huh?
Oh, this sucks. I can't even record. Okay, so there might be a problem because I was trying to use Windows Movie Maker, the newest version apparently, to record it. But the problem is that this is much different than the thing I know, and I don't think you can record your microphone like how you used to. So then I might have to use my other software. But the problem is I have to disconnect everything just for it to work. So that might be a problem when it comes to recording things. You see what I mean? Well, actually, I figured out a way I could. I figured out. Actually, I think I figured out a way how to do it. It's complicated, but it's better than nothing, I guess.
Wait, where's the new version of Windows Movie Maker?
It's not that great, so just letting you know. But can you
It's
hold on? Let
bad.
me just stop the broadcast right quick.